Over the last decade, the fitness industry has changed so much, and online coaching is now the number one thing that coaches are doing to be able to support clients with health and fitness. So today we're going to unpack that and dive into it a little bit deeper, because there are things that you need to know when it comes to online coaching versus personal training, whether online coaching is for you, and also choosing a coach, because there's so many coaches out there these days.
Choose us.
Sorry. That's good. That was great.
Yeah, there definitely has been such a massive growth in it over the last couple of years. Even when I first started, I guess, studying sport and, I started my degree, it was nowhere near as big as how it is now. And I started in 2019. So that was ages ago. And I remember even still, I was struggling to find information and struggling to navigate my own fitness goals because it wasn't really that big back then.
No, not at all. I mean, it's really taken off in the last, I would say the last decade it's come to light, but I'd say the last 5 years is where it's really taken off.
Yeah, from what I remember online coaching to be is rather than being customized, it was all very much like, do you know what I was around for was Bodies by Rachel, and that was the biggest thing. And I would also sign up to things like Booty by Brett, if anyone knows what that is.
Is that Brett Contreras?
Yeah, and I did his stuff, but it was like, it wasn't, yes, there was an option to go into the customized space, but it was less, it was definitely less something that I'd had marketed out to me. It was more like, just like training programs, and that's really all it was.
Yeah, that's where it started. I think it did really go from like in-person coaching to the big names started releasing programs, and then it's kind of just snowballed from there into what it is now, which is obviously like customization, right? Coaches are very much leaning towards the online space over the face-to-face space, and there's some things you need to know about that, because I, as a coach myself, and also somebody who is an owner of an online business and has, by the way, done the face-to-face and the online, can see both sides of it and can see the pros and cons. But I truly believe that moving into online coaching for most people is going to be the most beneficial thing these days, because unlike PT, where you might do a 45-minute session and then that's all you're paying for, and then it's like, see you next week, you get the experience of being able to have your training, your nutrition, your mindset, and one-on-one support for you all week round. And, yes, of course, there's the argument of, well, maybe you'll do 2 or 3 sessions with your PT per week, but you also got to look at it from this perspective. That's only training. Then you've got to add on the nutrition side of things. And then you've got to add on the check-in side of things. And a lot of the time, PT actually works out more expensive than online coaching too.
And also the PT in those 3 hours is only going to have that touch point with you for those 3 sessions per week. The capacity of an online coach is going to be much greater because they can actually oversee everything that you're doing. So rather than just heading into the training sessions, they're going to be watching your steps. They're going to be watching how, your energy is in terms of communication with you. They're going to be seeing, you've kind of been MIA the last couple of days. Hey, let's check in, let's hop on a call, because the coach is going to have the capacity to do that and be able to oversee so many things, and not to mention nutrition as well, of course, was a massive driver to getting to your goals.
Yeah, well, there's usually like a few stages when you look at if you look at PT on the left and then you look at online coaching on the right. The way that it usually works is you'll have like your baseline PT, which is, as I said, it's like a 45-minute session. It's you pay for a training session and that's all you get. Then the next step might be like you pay for your training session, and then the coach might have some type of like nutrition add-on that you pay for as well, and they might do your meals for you and all of that sort of thing. So then you're training with them a couple times a week and doing your meals. Then you go the next step, and it's usually like a hybrid approach where coaches, and that's actually quite popular, where coaches will have like a hybrid approach where they'll do in-person PT, and then the hybrid, which is the remainder of it, your check-ins, your nutrition, it's all online. And then you go all the way over to the right, which is the complete online coaching. Now, I think what we need to look at is, where are you in your journey and what's going to be the best thing for you? Because what I have to say is, whilst I stand by what I said before, for most people, online coaching is the way to go, because you get more bang for your buck, you get more out of it. The coach has more capacity and more ability to actually overview everything for you, therefore more likelihood of seeing results. I also think that if you are somebody who is maybe like really fresh and isn't self-motivated, doing face-to-face initially could actually be better. And so what I would like to do is kind of look at people's experience levels and where they should place themselves.
I actually thought you were going to take a different avenue. If someone is fresh and not I guess, experienced, I actually would argue that online coaching is a little bit better because the likelihood of someone who's never been to a gym before is nervous to go, likelihood of them going into the gym, actively signing up, reaching out to a PT, following through on that and being likely to, push past the anxiety of going to a gym is going to be a little bit, I'd say it's a bit more of a barrier. But in saying that, everyone's completely different.
Yeah, well, the thing is, right, like we do home programs. So I know that's where you're going with this. We have like newbies that join our online coaching service and they train from home and we can actually program them from home, which is awesome. And I think if you're wanting to do that, that's a big tick because a PT is not going to do that for you. What I am saying though is in order to be in online coaching, you do have to have some level of self-motivation and accountability. It doesn't mean we don't hold you accountable. We absolutely do. But we're not there waiting at the gym for you at 5 a.m. to get your training session done with us. So it's like, I also think that you have to have the right headspace around where you sit and what's going to be the best solution for your problem. If it's that you are doing things actively and you're not seeing results, online coaching 100%. If it's that you are, in a position of new, don't want to go to the gym, a bit nervous, still online coaching because you'll get that home aspect. Let's say though, you're somebody who isn't self-motivated, is like really needing somebody to be there to push you and you know that about yourself and you just think that if a coach gives you a training program, that's not enough, you need them there with you. That's when I'd argue getting a PT or like even going to group fitness might be a better bet.
Yeah, so obviously because we're in the online coaching space, we're clearly very passionate about it because we know it works, we've seen it work, and we've seen people get amazing results following through using, the methods that we give them. And I really just want to touch base on the benefits of online coaching and what you're going to get out of it if that's something that you decide is for you.
Well, the thing is, right, like as I just said, if you work with a PT or in group fitness, let's actually go through, I actually want to break these things down, right? If you work with a PT, you're going to probably end up not getting everything you get with online coaching because they just don't have that capacity to overview everything like an online coach would, especially because you also have to be mindful their time is more important and they don't have as much of it. Because if they're spending a 45-minute session with you and they have 20 clients, all of a sudden we're talking 20, 25 hours before they've even been able to see what you're doing outside of that session, right? So you've got to be mindful of like a coach's capacity. And if you want someone that's super hands-on, a PT is always going to have limitations because their time is limited. And that's just how it works. Group fitness. I wanted to touch on this as well because with group fitness, right, group fitness won't have any customization at all. So I think it's good if you're somebody who just like loves community, wants to be part of something, wants that accountability to show up each day, but isn't really minding if, you don't have a customized program. And I think group fitness is like good for someone who's entry level or somebody who does fitness for the enjoyment of it, not because they have a specific goal to reach. But here's the thing, I would argue you can get the same level of accountability and community in online coaching. You could probably even get more because once again, it is customized. So with like customization, or not even customization, but just the features and benefits, let's talk about like what we actually offer in our service that's different to the others.
Yeah, so the first thing would be obviously the fact that we overview absolutely everything. And that can range from not just, your metrics as in your scale weight, your body stats, things like that. We're also having a look at, your engagement level, how consistent you are with your training, what your training intensity looks like, how often you're following through with, training and nutrition at the same time, how often you're communicating with us as well, how the way that you're communicating as well tells us a lot in terms of, if we can start to see you pull back, that's a really good indicator to us that, hey, like something, we need to address that and we need to have that conversation. So maybe even just scheduling it out extra time to hop on more consistent calls and having more consistent communication.
Yeah, well, that's another thing too, is like it's then the mindset element, which is not really something you're going to get from the other types of the other types of coaching, but you can get from an online coach. It's just that well-rounded ability to have somebody looking at every aspect of your life and being able to help you navigate every aspect of your life rather than just looking at it from like a perspective of I'm going to get a session done and then that's it.
Well, yeah, exactly. So you'll have someone who's looking over absolutely everything, and that is super important when you are trying to reach a goal, and especially when it comes to a goal of fat loss, because obviously that's, the clients that we work with majority of the time. your mindset is going to have such an important factor to play in terms of your adherence and obviously in terms of your ability to reach your goals. So if we're not addressing your mindset and we're just focusing on training and nutrition, that's, neglecting one massive element in terms of you being able to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, that's it. And also like the other thing here is like the coach's capacity with that too. So as an online coach, because once again, I've done both. I've done face-to-face PT, I've done group fitness, I've done online, and I'm doing online. The capacity to look after a client is so much greater online because of the fact that you aren't tied to time, which, don't get me wrong, it's a benefit for the coach as well. But this is the way I like to see it. If the coach is happier because they can navigate things the way that they need to, you're going to get a better experience because they're going to show up for you better. And I noticed that capacity with being able to look after clients' mindsets, have conversations that are meaningful, create a community where you feel like you're part of something, be able to make tweaks when you need them. Like, it's stuff that we can do 9 times out of 10 on the spot because we have the capacity to do it. Whereas there are, again, limitations to other coaching styles with that. So we've talked about like obviously a lot of pros to online coaching. I feel like though we need to talk about some cons as well because there's cons to everything. Do you have any that you can think of? She just loves it so much.
I sound like I don't know. You put me on the spot. No, I think there definitely would be cons to it. I think it just depends on your goal and your personality type and your, what you prefer. I think a con would be like, well, obviously the lack of tangible face-to-face connection. But in saying that, I
think if you run your service well, it doesn't matter.
I don't know. I love the connection I have with my clients.
Yeah.
And if we need that extra bit of a touch point, we just do more regular calls.
So I've got a couple of cons, which I don't want to talk about, but I will.
What are they?
The first one is, I think like, especially for women, because we work with a lot of women, mostly women, we are constantly talking about training intensity. And I find yeah, that's a good one, right?
Yeah.
When women are scared to lift more in the gym, but they've got goals around strength or performance or like wanting to change their physique, there is one small limitation with online coaching where like we can encourage you to lift heavier and we can encourage you to send training videos through and tell you what weight to lift next time. But if you don't have someone there in the moment, you have to have the courage yourself to pick up that heavier weight. That's something that I've noticed that I think like could be a slight limitation.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, because it is quite frustrating, I will say, because you want the best for your clients and you know that they can lift heavier. You've seen their training videos if they're comfortable enough sending them through. And it's just like, if I was there with you, I would not have told you to lift that. I would have told you to lift heavier.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a small limitation.
It is.
Because you have a couple conversations and then they get the gist and they start to lift heavier. But I do think that is one area that a PT would have a little bit of an upper hand. I also think if you are obviously struggling with your form and technique, again, we love and we ask our clients to send training videos through, and 9 times out of 10 they do. But again, if you're a bit nervous about sending training videos through, and then you don't send them, you could be performing things wrong in the gym. And that's when having a PT would probably also give you an upper hand, only if you're a beginner and you're struggling with your technique. I have to say, though, a lot of the women that we get in already have a really good baseline. So then we're able to work off that. And again, a lot of our girls are able to send training videos through.
I think also a lot of our clients are so receptive because we set it up from the get-go that your training intensity matters, and we're not just here to, move around. We're here to train with purpose because it's going to help you reach your goal. And yeah, they're quite receptive in terms of feedback and implementing all of it. So that's why they get the most out of it.
Yeah, and that's true. But I also just, we have to like speak about that because of the fact that they are limitations. But I think, again, though, if you look at the pros versus cons, there's way more pros than there are cons. So that's kind of why I think online coaching has taken off, because coaches truly believe, us included, that we can get a better result for you and have you have a better experience by being online versus face-to-face. Again, I've done it all. So, and I've seen that, and I've seen time and time again that online is much better for most people. And then what I also wanted to talk about is like why online coaching has gotten so big from a coach perspective too. Because the thing is, right, like we'll have a lot of listeners that are clients or people who are looking at working with coaches, but I feel like we'll get some coaches listening as well. Regardless, I think it's good to talk about both sides. Why do you think that coaches opt for online coaching?
I think like even I guess where I initially thought, well, the whole reason as to why I initially went into this is because I thought that it would be, I definitely want to say less time, but I just was like really stuck in the rut of working, oh my goodness, like 6 jobs, not sleeping, like morning shifts, midday shifts, night shifts, morning shifts. It was just a ridiculous kerfuffle of hours. So I feel like that's why I went into this, because I knew I was like, well, for starters, I'm going to be able to sit down and like not run around, but also like I'm actually going to be able to help someone and see something through to them with them to the very end.
Yeah. Well, see, this is the thing, right? You think about it this way. Online coaches are coaches who are in the health and fitness industry. So what's one of our biggest values? Well, it's health and it's fitness. And it's funny because being a in-person trainer generally is actually more unhealthy for us than what it is to be in another job or something like online. So what I mean by that is if you can, there's a bug flying in my face. Sorry guys. If you can like think of it from this angle, you've got a trainer getting up at 4 a.m, sometimes earlier, starting work by 5 a.m, training clients on their feet until, 9 o'clock. Then they're usually doing their own training, doing some behind the scenes work for their business. Then they've got an afternoon/night shift of clients. And then every day before you know it, you're doing 12, 13, 14 hours, then having a short sleep because usually you finish coaching around, if you're busy, 6, 7 o'clock at night, but you've got to be up at 5 the next morning. You got to get home, unwind, set yourself up for the next day, rinse and repeat that 5 days a week. And again, I've lived this. And it's so draining, so tiring. Your sleep goes to shit. Your ability to look after yourself and your own fitness can a lot of the time go out the window. And it's actually one of the most unhealthy positions to be in, which totally goes against all of the values that we're teaching our clients.
Yeah.
So, there are ways around it. Obviously, like I have coaches that I even work with in my advisory program, and they'll be like a mix of both. And they'll do, like morning on the floor, and then they'll go home and do online coaching through the evening. There are ways around doing face-to-face that can be healthier. But if we're talking like just a pure face-to-face coach, even group coaching, most of the time they're split shifts. So, because if you're not employed and you're just a contractor, or even if you are employed and your job is just classes, when do the classes run? Morning and night. So you're doing split shifts every day.
That was like the unhealthiest I had ever been. So I very much relate to that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? It's like, okay, well, that's where it completely disregards values and we're not looking after ourselves, but we're putting everyone else before ourselves. And coaches get burnt out. Fitness coaches get tired. They get burnt out. It becomes very, very hard to maintain their own fitness and health, let alone look after our clients at the same time. So when online coaching blew up, that's when people really started to gravitate towards it because it's a better lifestyle for coaches and it means they can give back more to their clients. Because I know firsthand, when I was living a better life and I had more downtime and I was able to show up 100% for myself, my ability to look after my clients was astronomically different compared to burning out and then feeling like you're only giving 50% of effort to your clients. So I think that's another big reason why people have like made that switch, because it makes sense, right?
Is that why you made the switch?
Well, I made the switch because
it was COVID.
Yeah, no, I made the switch because Jack decided that he wanted to move across the country. So I'd built this like big PT business and I was like booked out. I was running like 53 sessions a week, I think was where I was sitting over 5 days. And then
mind you, if you're a client, you're not a coach, like on top of the 53 sessions, how many hours would you say you did marketing, doing?
Yeah, well, luckily for me at that time, I was a local business, which meant I was like living in my local area where I grew up. So I actually didn't really do marketing. I didn't even know what marketing was back then because word of mouth got out and took off so big that, like, don't get me wrong, I had my Instagram and stuff, but that's all I did. And that was it. Like, I didn't have any email marketing. I didn't have a marketing plan. I didn't have a content plan. It just blew up. It was great. But then I was doing training programs for my clients because I ran a bit of like a hybrid approach, which hilariously I charged $20 extra a week. And I gave them online app access with, their training programs outside of their coaching or outside of their PT and like macros and stuff. And then that was great. And then Jack decided to move me from Newcastle, which for those of you who don't know is like 2 hours north of Sydney on the east side of Australia over to the west to Perth. And I was like, well, fuck me. I've just built this fucking business. So then I moved everyone online so I didn't lose the business. Jack's in the army, for anyone who doesn't know. So like I'm online because running a face-to-face business is totally unsustainable for me. Imagine like packing up and moving and rebuilding everything every few years.
Gross.
Yeah. But then on top of that, I've stayed online because it suits my lifestyle better. And as I said, I think I get better results for the clients. That's why I did it.
Yeah, and so to wrap up the episode, I want to touch base on, you know, what a good online coach is and what they look like, and then some red flags to look out for in terms of, you know, online coaching that is just likely not going to be beneficial.
Actually, I want to say, before we get into that, I actually want to say something, because something that I do actually truly believe is that so many coaches are going online. So many people are finishing their PT courses and then going online and becoming an online coach. That's one thing that I actually have a bit of an opinion on. I think personally, you should be spending time on the floor in some way, shape or form for a minimum of 12 months before you decide to go online. I think you have to earn your stripes. Like you really have to earn your stripes to be an online coach, because you do need to still have a skill set around communicating with people. And because a lot of what we do in online coaching is like, you need communication skills. I think like how to cue people. You need to be able to know how to cue people in person so that you can take that knowledge and apply it online. And I just think there's so many benefits to working with people face to face first before moving into the online space. So one thing that does piss me off a little bit is like these new coaches getting a qualification, which we know the qualification doesn't teach you anything, then moving straight online and all of a sudden running these online businesses, which kind of brings me to that first red flag, which is if a coach isn't able to communicate with you clearly or properly, that's a red flag that potentially that's going to have limitations in your experience.
Yeah, I do think time on the floor is so important. I'm personally still coaching on the floor as well, just, you know, to keep my skill set up. And I personally really enjoy it.
Well, you've been coaching on the floor for what, like 2 or 3 years, right?
Yeah, for 2-3 years. And then before that, I was also, you know, teaching another form of training, which is Pilates. And I just have had so much experience in terms of cueing and communicating with clients face to face as well. And I think that's really important. And I have learned so much from that. So that has carried my confidence over into online coaching as well.
Well, because it's the thing. Imagine trying to communicate with someone, especially because 9 times out of 10, when a client is struggling, it's an awkward conversation, not from our end, from theirs. Like they're already struggling with whatever they're going through, and then trying to open up to you is going to be hard. So if you can't communicate with them through an online platform, whether that be an app or a call, like an app message or a call or whatever, you can't communicate with them clearly or in a way that's going to help them in any way, shape or form, then there's going to be limitations. They're going to end up leaving and you're the one that's going to suffer as well.
Yeah. I think another red flag as well is non-customizable coaching and not listening to your clients in terms of communication, but also just, I guess, not overlooking what your client is doing, how they're adhering, how they're adapting, and just taking a cookie cutter approach to every single client, because no one is the same.
Yeah, I think it's hard for clients though to figure this out. Like,
I thought I meant for coaches.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just like looking at it from both ends, and I'm going like, absolutely, that's a red flag for a coach. But from a client, like, how do you even figure that out? It's so difficult because you wouldn't know that program's been given to 20 other people. Although to be fair, like I worked with a coach. This was only a few years ago, so I was already coaching myself. I think I told you the story. I worked with a well-known coach, not going to say names, and they gave me a program on my first week, and I was like, this program wasn't made for me, but I have a trained eye, so I knew straight away. There was just exercises in there that I was like, this is not my program. This was not made for me. It made no sense. But then I'm like, I actually thought in that moment, I was like, fuck, how would you know if you were somebody with an untrained eye?
To be fair, I also did the same with the very close base to your online coach.
They were related.
They were very close. But yes, I also did that. And this was right before I began my fitness journey. I think I was in my first year of uni in terms of understanding sports science, but I still was super new, and I immediately recognized that it was a cookie cutter approach.
How did you find that out? Like,
because they weren't listening to anything I'd said. Right. I would tell them that I was really struggling adhering to my calorie target. This is the first time I'd ever tracked my calories, really focused on training and nutrition. And I had no idea how long I was in this deficit for. They never told me how long I was going to be there. They just said, yeah, it's tough, just stick it out. But it was the communication in terms of not even acknowledging that it's difficult, being like, it shouldn't be hard for you though. Like that's still, but it was.
It was. That's
It was. And it was hard mentally in so many other ways. And in terms of the training program, it was it was so uncustomized. Like I don't know how else to express it. It was just,
you just knew.
Random. It was so random.
Yeah, right. So I also think like another red flag would be not having multiple nutrition strategies.
Yeah.
Because everybody has a different background, and nutrition's one of the most dangerous things that we can coach through, because obviously we've got like mental health, mindset, disordered eating, like so many things that can stem from nutrition or happen because of whatever you're going through, like whatever way you want to look at it. But I think not having like multiple ways to coach someone through nutrition is a red flag, because I know coaches, many coaches, they're like, no, I only coach macros. And it's like, that's fine. But then you have to be really careful who you're bringing into your service, because if you try and force macros onto somebody who maybe has a bit of a trigger around that, which I understand that like the trigger isn't the food or the tracking, it's your mindset around it. But like you almost need to screen people better to make sure that they're qualified enough for what you're giving them. So I think that that's also something, is like look into that and make sure that your coach isn't forcing a nutrition strategy on you that doesn't feel good.
I think that's a really good point to make. I didn't even really have a think about the fact that some coaches would only take.
Well, there's heaps of coaches that only do macros. That's it. They're not qualified.
That would make sense. And I think their ideal client is obviously different. I think everyone has a different, client base. I think this is why I'm so passionate about what we do, because we're really flexible with our approach and so aware of the fact that not everyone's going to have the same mindset, come from the same starting point. So we're very flexible in that.
Yeah, I agree. Only one more red flag for an online coach, because there's so many out there. If you're not mapping out a phase for your client and they have no idea where they're at, which is something that we are very, very big on. Like every single client in our service knows where they're at, what their phase is, how many weeks they've got in their phase, what to expect afterwards. Like I've actually, when Roberta and Maddie started, I was like so anal about this, and I made sure that Roberta, you actually created a spreadsheet, which was fantastic. Because remember, I was like, no spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I hate spreadsheets.
I love spreadsheets.
But you created the spreadsheet and it works. And it's like the client physically can see where they're at in their phase, which helps them with being able to stay on track longer. But it also means that we're not reactive coaching, because we've actually mapped things out ahead of time. And I think especially for more like inexperienced coaches, reactive coaching is a very common thing where, a client might say something or not like something, so you quickly change it to make them happy. Or like, a client's not seeing results when you expected them to, so you quickly make a change. And that's when you have these clients that say they didn't get results with their coach because it was just reactive. So I think like having a phase mapped out allows for you, even as a coach, because there'll be times where you might be coaching someone and they haven't had a scale weight drop, or they haven't quite like they're not quite where you thought they would be. And this is because the human body is so complex. So sometimes for us, rather than going in blind and just trying to make these changes, having a phase mapped out also allows the coach to coach better, because you can be reactive without even realizing.
I also think my last red flag, I just thought of it, is when people, so we were talking about challenges earlier, and I think when a coach promises a client that they're going to lose a specific amount in a specific amount of time, I think that's it's an interesting approach, because it doesn't make sense to me. How can you promise someone something you yourself can't be certain about?
Well, that's true, because everybody loses fat at a different rate. There's obviously like an equation you can run by, but it's an average.
Yes.
And it's not going to be like that for everyone.
And it's also not taking into account people's previous dieting histories and a lot of other factors. So I think it's already, you're off the bat setting an expectation for a client that you can't promise is actually going to be followed through. So I think, it's kind of just hindering someone's perception of what is achievable versus what isn't. Obviously giving them a rough outline and, giving them the phase that they're in is super important.
Yeah.
But just being mindful of the language that you're using and promising clients something that shouldn't be.
No, I agree with that, because imagine like a client then thinking something's wrong with them because they didn't get there, when it's got nothing to do with that. Maybe the coach just overpromised and underdelivered. You know what I mean? I agree. Well, guys, I hope that that's given you an insight into the online coaching world. Some things to look out for if you are choosing whether you want to go with an online coach or not. Obviously, some signs to look out for if you are wanting to go with a coach that you think is going to be aligned for you and help you reach your goals. I actually really enjoyed this episode because I feel like this is giving an insight from both ends and will help people become a little bit more clear on what online coaching is like.